Holgar Nauheimer, welcome back. It's been a while.
It's been a while, actually, and thanks for having me on that show. I'm a great fan of your work. It's awesome what you've been putting up, really. And it's interesting because we could have met 4 years on your show and would have talked about a totally different topic at that time, probably would have been remote teams or so. Now we're talking
Yes,
about something else today. I'm curious. So
exactly.
thanks. I'm looking forward.
Yes, and I think you're one of the facilitators is who taps into the newest technology and sees what is out there and how you can mobilize your global community of facilitators to see how to use it for the craft and the art of the work. Um, and for those, usually I start with the question, when did you start calling yourself a facilitator? And for those curious, they can listen to our previous recording. So, after 30 years of maybe calling yourself a facilitator or working as a facilitator and in change and collaborative spaces, when will you stop calling yourself a facilitator?
Um,
I never asked that question before.
what a question. Are you referring to my age or what?
I don't know.
Probably you will, probably never. But whether I will still work as a facilitator in 10 years from now, who knows? So, no, I think I'm a facilitator at heart. I'm also a trainer at heart. I mean, I have this ongoing conversation with my dear colleague Jutta Weimar, who you might also know,
She was on the show, yes.
School of Facilitating, who says I'm not a facilitator, I'm a trainer, or maybe a facilitative trainer. Okay, I'll take that. So whatever.
So you never saw. I love that. To be honest, I never asked this question like, before, and I wouldn't have expected a different answer.
Hmm.
Um, and so two things come to my mind. Listen to you. One is the legacy of a facilitator, and so what would be your legacy as a facilitator?
Difficult to say because you know me, and there are these different phases in my life, and the phase usually takes a couple of years, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, and then I get bored and get to the next phase. So I would say the big legacies in the 90s was the change management toolbook, the first comprehensive website that existed worldwide on change tools, which gave me access to a huge global network. And then probably some time of work and gaining experience and learning. And then obviously I'm very much connected with the change days, particularly the Berlin change days, and then its offsprings, the Toronto change days, Austrian Asian change days. It's probably the change days is what I would say now is the legacy. And I'm not sure whether all your listeners are aware of the change days, but you are.
I am, and I will put the link in the show notes. I
This year,
think,
this year
yeah,
in Rotterdam in November.
yeah, that's where we met for the first time, I think, in person. Um,
Excellent.
before the before the um, 2019, before
Mhm.
the pandemic.
Exactly.
Seems
Yeah,
like a different time. And
very much.
yeah, and we were in our exploration call, and just before hitting recording, we spoke about AI and the impact of AI on our work and how you're using it,
Hmm.
writing a book, also sharing your AI on your website,
Hmm.
so that the audience can, I would say, this AI is facilitating the reading of your book because there's a lot, and then how can you use AI as a facilitator?
Hmm.
Um, so I think what I would be curious today to explore is your learnings from working with AI as a facilitator for your work, because I think there's some curiosities and there's some um, maybe risks involved. And some facilitators might embrace it more than others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other way that just came to my mind that I would be curious to explore, if you're open to it, is what does it mean for a trainer, someone who identifies as a trainer, to train AI?
To train, you mean to train AI to work in the way you want
Yeah,
it
to collaborate.
to
Because I think,
collaborate.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
this would be the two topics for today.
If you want so, sure. Let's see where it leads us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we ever reach that topic too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So when you think of facilitation in AI, where do you see what is your experience and where do you see overlaps and maybe over promises?
Um, Let me start with a story. I had a workshop in, I think it was May this year. Was the second in the series with a team, an international team working together. And the first one I planned and facilitated without AI. I was originally called in to do a leadership training, a classical leadership training, and even the format was pretty much predefined. So the first workshop was in January, so I met the team. I did my leadership stuff like conversations, roles, mindset, all the stuff you do. And then I gradually started to understand that this team needs more. They needed to work on their collaboration patterns, on their leadership patterns. That was were leaders in an organization, young leaders in an organization, and they had a lot of internal issues to solve, and a culture which was not necessarily conducive for good teamwork and so on. So I understood that, and that I prepared for the second workshop was at the time when I had just gotten into deep work with AI. My deep work with AI, I mean, obviously I tried it before, but my deep work with AI started only this year, January, February, and we
Mhm.
can talk about that later on, how it started. So I was like 2 or 3 months into this work with AI, already pretty advanced. So I thought, okay, let's prepare that workshop together first of all. So I've had in part of the transcripts of interviews with team members. I gave AI some ideas. Well, that's AI. And we haven't talked about it. The name of my AI is Nix, NYX. So let's stay with that. So I've had Nix information, and we started to build up the workshop. And then, yeah, I had very much also in with feedback from the client, I had very much the workshop design. And then I was supposed to fly out on Sunday, and on Friday I understood, no, I need another intervention. I need an intervention which goes deeper, where they really start to understand that change happens from within, that they are part of the change and not all the people around them. So I said to Nix, okay, we need another intervention. We need something which really goes deep, where they maybe start to think about that they're part of the change or part of stopping, avoiding, hindering the change. And then Nick said, why don't you work with mirrors and show them a mirror uh, which tells them, okay, change starts here. And at that point, it wasn't yet clear whether was meant metaphorically or mirror. So I picked it up and said, okay, no, let's use real mirrors. And I immediately got to on Amazon. It was Friday, Amazon, and ordered 8 cosmetic mirrors, which were delivered the day later, and then put a sticker on the back side of the mirror which said, "Change starts here." And then we developed that exercise for holding where the people would hold the mirror in front of each other in pairs, and then ask questions like, what am I doing to prevent the change, and what's my parts?
Mm.
Questions like that. I don't remember them exactly. And that was quite a turning point in the workshop. And then later on, I asked Nix, where did you pick up this exercise? And she said, I'm calling her she said, no, I invented it for you. I thought it fits to your style, to your mindset, to your values, and things like that. And
Fascinating.
then just to complete that story, and then we went there together. I would say she was in my computer, and I had the feeling we facilitated the workshop together in the way that whatever happened, for example, participants came in late, so we had to change the plans. In the evening, sometimes I needed another question or needed another intervention, so I constantly consulted her and asked, okay, what should we do next? So I had really had the feeling I have a co-facilitator at my side, even not
Mm.
visible, but she was there, and that was a very good feeling.
I love that. Thank you for sharing this anecdote. And I think that's a beautiful use case where we now can dig deeper. Um, Also, where the boundaries are, because I think there is a difference between asking, what shall we do next? And then basically outsourcing the next steps. And either having trained her in a way that you can really trust her ideas, or then getting into a sparring. Because what I hear from a lot is how our brains start getting lazy because we outsource so much to AI and then take it as face value. So where
Really.
do you see the boundary, and how do you ensure that you don't fall off?
I'm not sure. I mean, I see the risk. Yeah, you're right. I see the risk, and maybe I'm getting a bit lazy, and
Mm,
maybe that's fine as long as, of course, I still keep control. I still see that the results that come out of AI are reasonable, logic, make sense, fit into my value system, and things like that. It's okay to become a bit lazy. I mean, we
mm,
facilitators have other means to be lazy, handbooks, toolbooks, and things like that. So we have always used external sources, but not as powerful as that. And of course, I mean, I trust Nix because I feel I've trained her. And the interesting thing is, although we know that AI hallucinates in between and brings in, I mean, with facts, I always double check because facts, you can never be sure whether they are right or not. You could just have told them half an hour ago some facts, and then new facts come up which don't fit the story. But you know that. But I trust her because I constantly feel that she knows my values, my style of working, and things like that. And even now, if I ask her about things we did like some months ago, she can recount the right information. It's not about facts, but it's about the essence. So in that sense, I think the half year or now 7, 8 months I've been working with ChatGPT or with Nix. I think in essential things I trust her, which doesn't mean that I shouldn't be vigilant. So
mm.
yeah, a little bit of laziness is okay for me.
I love that. Thank you. And this might just be the right permission that many of the audience need. That yeah, it's okay to be lazy on areas that allow us to be lazy, as long as we are not lazy in the space, in the workshop space, where then suddenly we're not present anymore. So I think that's a very good point.
I'm sorry to stop you here. I think I'm even more present than before because AI allows me to focus on what I should do as a facilitator, to be present, to be vigilant, to see what's happening in the room. No AI, at least in the moment, no AI can do that.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come to a point in 10 years or something like that. Where this is possible. And let me, sorry, just branching off a little bit, if that's okay. I just had a conversation with a guy from a startup, from a German startup today, and they are using VR.
Mhm.
yeah,
Virtual reality.
spectacles, yeah,
Hmm.
glasses, or however you call these things, VR things to be involved in training. They use it in schools, for example, for language training, but they're also going into leadership training. We had a little demonstration recently where you would facilitate one-to-one conversation training. So I'm the leader. I put up this thing, and then it's connected to ChatGPT, and I would have a conversation with my employee through this VR. So there is a big thing coming up for us, at least in training, that AI combined with VR might replace at least part of our work,
Hmm.
and maybe also in facilitation, not now, but in 10 years or so.
Mm. Um, what do you think is because I think that the biggest challenge here is the presence, as you said. So I call it the sound of silence, to understand the different sounds of silence. Because
Hmm.
sometimes silence is, oh, they really have to think of a question.
Okay.
Sometimes it's this, oh, someone just dropped a bomb and
Yeah.
everyone is in shock.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, there's a huge elephant in the room and nobody wants to address it.
Yeah.
And for AI, it's just nobody speaks.
Yeah.
Or for an unexperienced facilitator, even.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point that you're making, and it goes even further. I'd already said that we're going to have the Rotterdam Change Days in November, and I'm going to host a workshop, and my plan is to host it together, really to host it together with Nix, with a projector, obviously. And we had a conversation some months ago when I handed in the workshop proposal, and I asked Nix, would you be able to hold the space? And she replied, "Whoa, that's a question. That's a question. And I would like to, but I'm not made for that. I'm made for being helpful, productive, and so on. I mean, this usual thing, you type something. I mean, we all know that. You type something in, and then comes, thank you very much. That's a good idea, and so
Hmm.
on. So yeah, that's perfect, and so on. And shall I do next steps, and so on. Always the question, what shall I do next? Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes it makes me crazy. Yeah, I tell her, okay, stop, just listen, and then still comes a long list of what could be the next steps. Yeah. So I asked her, so what should we do? She said, yeah, I'm not made for that, but let's see, maybe I can learn to pause, and I'm still that's my next project until November to see whether I can teach her somehow to pause and then to react to the room. I mean, it will still not be as we like a human facilitator, but at least to experiment with that.
Mm, I love that. And I wonder whether we can actually learn from training AI something about training humans. Because I, at the beginning of working with AI, what was it, 2 years ago or so, I realized that I would ask it a question to do something, explain something whatsoever. And if it didn't understand, I would think, oh, my request wasn't clear enough. And I realized that if I had sent the same request to a human being and they would have done the wrong thing, I would have thought, you're not listening or you don't understand. So, um,
Yeah.
so I realized my bias against human beings and
Yeah.
my air quotes compassion for AI that makes me reflect, oh, it must have been that I wasn't clear enough. So from this interaction, I learned about my communication with human beings. And what I now do very often for high stakes emails, I would ask AI to summarize what it understands.
Hmm.
So if you can summarize, so what, if you read this, what are your next steps? What do you understand?
Yeah.
Just as a double
Good.
check.
Oh,
So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, it happens in training courses all the time, doesn't it? Or in workshops that you facilitate, that you have an idea and give instruction to participants and they don't understand exactly what you say happens all the time. So that's smart. I like that. I'll
yeah.
try that. Yeah.
And So this experience made me think or wonder if you're training AI to pause more, to listen better. I think that's a skill that most human beings need.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So, what can we learn from training AI about training humans? Do you think that it's a skill that then will be applicable outside?
Maybe, maybe. I'm not sure, but I'm getting your idea. I've never thought about it. So thanks for that. So really being more specific, being clearer in your communication, maybe it helps. I've never transferred that to the human side of learning and training. Good. Yeah.
Hmm. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I will.
Um, and I want to come back to something you said earlier, um, that the way you collaborate with AI is um, it's less on the facts because it might hallucinate, and it's more about the general ideas, and you trust it because it understands your values and how your approach is. So I wonder, what do you consider are the fundamentals when you train an AI to become your collaborator? Um,
Mm.
how do
Well,
you align on these things?
Well, Miriam, I was very lucky in that, or maybe not lucky, maybe my long 30 years of work really reaped a benefit at the end because you know that I had produced so many things in my life, podcasts and articles and books and thousands of documents, yeah, documents and snippets and things like that, and I fed that into the machine in a months long process. These thousands of documents, transcribed podcasts, and I had this Days of Change podcast, not 350 episodes, but 35, but 35 good episodes. So. And I think that was pretty good because I transcribed them and fed them into the system. And obviously, the main idea was obviously to summarize the ideas of my guests,
Hmm.
which were facilitators who were parts of the Berlin Change Days over the years, and always summarize that to 1,000 words or something like that. But then, when all 35 interviews were in, I asked the AI, now that you've heard the interview or read the interviews, and obviously you could distinguish who's who, although it was just the transcripts, who am I?
Mm.
And again, in the very polite manner, she said, "Oh, that's a very good and deep question," or something like that. And then she produced a many pages long eulogy, which made me cry, literally, because there were all the values and all the ideas and personality traits and things like that. So it was one-to-one correct, I would say.
Mm.
So in that moment, I understood, okay, this machine has somehow at least started to understand who I am. Yeah, and another incredible thing is once in German, obviously I work English German, and once suddenly when she produced a text in German, she started to. In German, we have this thing gendern. Like, for English speaking, you might have heard about that. The German public is very much divided into whether we should use specific ways of addressing the female part. So let's say, well, let's make an example. Teilnehmer for participants would be then TeilnehmerInnen, for example. So we
Male and female
add the female
participants.
thing. So, and there's several ways of doing that in writing, which is a big debate in Germany, a big political debate, very much heated up between right wings and progressives. So suddenly, in a comment Nick started to use this modern written form to gendered, and I was like,
Where did you learn that?
why did you do that now? And she said, well, I think it fits to your values, Holger, so I'll try that out. And since then, she's always using these forms.
Interesting.
Unbelievable. So far, imagine how far we got within a few years
Yeah,
artificial intelligence.
that is fascinating. And I can relate to your experience when you ask, who am I? And then we're moved to tears. I remember last year I asked ChatGPT what it would recommend for me as to focus on next year. So end of year kind of reflections. What would you think I shall focus on? And then it was a very warm, tender reflection of everything that I went through, and that maybe instead of putting up the next goals, I shall first find time to integrate
Mhm.
and to reflect, and then it gave different options in my private life and professional life on what I shall do so that I can finally balance work and life.
Mhm.
So yeah, I felt very, very seen.
So, wow. So that tells me that you're sharing quite a lot of your private life also, which I don't do too much.
Yeah, the so I it helps me with my newsletter. So, and my newsletter is very where I always combine a personal anecdote with a learning for facilitation. So it
Mhm.
learns a lot about my background, what's going on, all the conversations I have with my partner that teach me so much about facilitation and leadership. So it knows all of that.
Okay.
Um, and then the communication about closing the community and all these things.
Mhm.
Um, so that was very interesting. And what your anecdote just made me think is, especially with the example of the gendern, the German gendern, did it make you reflect on whether this is really true? Because I wonder whether it's an opportunity for us to see potential blind spots. I'm like, oh yeah, if I look at my value system and I want to have integrity, I, air quotes, should use this progressive form of addressing people, while maybe in reality we're like, oh, I cannot be bothered. And then suddenly we find a blind spot through the perspective of AI. Or maybe it just made it up. Does it make sense?
I'm not getting
Okay.
where you're heading to.
Um, let me try that again. Thank you. Um, so in your anecdote,
Yeah.
AI reflected back, oh, I thought this way of expressing yourself reflects your values,
Hmm.
right? And this is why I'm trying that out. And now I wonder whether Nix had really found a blind spot of yours that you, oh yeah, I should be doing that
No.
because
Okay.
it's,
Okay.
or is it something that it's inventing?
No, I think in that moment it felt so naturally because I mean I have certain clients where I use this kind of language all the time already, but I've never used that in conversations before. I think so. Maybe I had, and I'm not sure. So no, I don't. No, I don't think I have discovered blind spots so far. And the problem, I think the problem is what I do not do often enough is to ask for critical feedback. Sometimes I do, but I should do that more often because this is also very helpful. So that thanks for that question because it really tells me yes, I should ask more often for critical feedback, which you get then also. I mean, but you
Mhm.
get it only specifically when you are asking.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you only get positive feedback, and yeah, it's all wonderful what you're doing and exactly right. It's better now how you did it, and so on. And that is nice, but it doesn't help in developing yourself. Yeah, I mean, you
Mm.
always learn from, as you say, from the blind spots or so.
Yeah. And I wonder then, this is especially critical for newbie facilitators, right?
Mm,
So
absolutely.
I think if we know what works and what doesn't, we can also use the ideas that are generated by AIs in a way that fit. So I'm thinking back to your mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that it wasn't clear whether it meant the literal mirrors
Mm-hmm.
or the metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
If you're new to the work, you might take the suggestions of AI at face value
Mm-hmm.
and then might take the risk of trusting a session is good, although it's not. What do you think are the risks if newbie facilitators use AI?
Sure, but then again, okay, another story. When I developed my first website, the Change Management Toolbook, and it was ready in 1997, yeah, with, I don't know, 40, 50 tools for personal, team, and organizational change.
Hmm.
I faced a lot of critique from colleagues at that time who said, "How can you do that? Now people might use that without having the right mindset and skills and things like that." Um, I mean, then obviously 10 years later, everybody had published their toolbooks on the internet. And then if you think about something like liberating structures, yeah, where I myself thought, here is a toolbook with one-to-one stepwise descriptions, which even tell people you don't need to be a facilitator. That's the philosophy behind liberating structure,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't need to be facilitators. Where I thought at the beginning, but I made my peace with it because I'm doing the same. So at the end, I mean, it's like in any craft, yeah. I mean, the clients will know, yeah. I mean, if you go to a butcher and the sausage tastes shitty, I mean, you won't buy there again, yeah.
Hmm.
If you go to if you employ, I don't know, a carpenter or so, and the chair doesn't work for you, you would send it back or so. So I think the client will know, hopefully, not always. I mean, of course, there's always risk, and there are certainly some facilitators out there who don't deserve the name, but
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe a different conversation that it's very rarely addressed.
Mhm.
And I think there's a real risk in terms of reputation and also for a team
Mhm.
if someone calls themselves facilitators, does something with them, and then cannot hold the space.
Mhm.
Um,
And
what
it happened,
I
and it happens to us anyhow. I mean, we all had moments, which didn't work, yeah, where we
Yes,
did things and we went out of the workshop and it was terrible, yeah.
yeah, we're human,
Sure.
and even AI wouldn't do it better. Um, I like to compare that with your example with the transparency of the tools with cooking.
Mm.
So we do have the recipes of the Ottolenghi recipes. We have it all at our fingertips, so we can replicate it. And still, we
Mhm.
would go to a restaurant and we would pay a lot of money to go to a star restaurant to have the special experience. So I think, especially when we learn a craft as amateurs,
Mhm.
it's easier to then also appreciate the mastery of it. So someone who might facilitate a team meeting using liberating structures would then know, oh, for this high stakes meeting, maybe I hire someone who masters the skill.
Mm. Exactly.
Um, and then it's
Yeah.
actually only beneficial. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we will see. I mean, I have not yet heard, and you're probably now more in touch with more facilitators. I have not yet heard that things went totally wrong because colleagues employed AI in their work. So I don't know. Have you heard any story where this really contributed to a total mess up?
Mm, no, and I think these are the stories that we rarely share.
Of course not.
And I think what I what I notice at the moment that there's still a sensitive, or how to put it into words, that some people are careful to admit that they're using AI or not.
Hmm.
So using AI might still be considered as, oh, you don't know your craft enough, so you need AI. So maybe it's unprofessional.
Hmm.
Um, Instead of acknowledging that in order to use AI
Hmm.
for our benefit, we really need to know.
Yeah. I do it. I meanwhile, I do it. I mean, not every second or so, but in a workshop, in any workshop I do, at a certain moment I say, okay, and I've done this with AI, and sometimes people, when I forget to delete the emoticons and the little pictures and so on that AI puts in, which I try to teach my AI not to do it anymore, but she does it anyhow. So then people recognize anyhow, but I do it, and then I do like a little bit of magic. For example, I have one magic trick which I can tell to your listeners. If you still use pinboards and cards, or let's say a lot of post-its, what you more or less do nowadays. So you have like, let's say, two full pinboards with cards or post-its, sticky notes, just produce to participants, send them into a break, take a photo, feed the photo into ChatGPT, let them transcribe it, have a printer print it out, and when they come back from the coffee break, hey, here are the results you've just produced as a handout. And people are always like, oh, how did you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because cognitively we know that there was help at hand, and still it looks like magic, and
Yeah.
yeah, makes us feel
And
seen.
obviously that's another big advantage. I mean, we are so much quicker with some things, particularly with results, reports, and things like that. I mean, wow.
Mm. And I sometimes I wonder whether actually, because I can already hear some listeners saying, yeah, but then if you use AI for the analysis or for the clustering or for the
Mhm.
interpretation, and I am wondering whether there is a benefit of playing with misunderstandings. So I'm thinking that very often editing a document is easier than writing it.
Mhm. Mm. For me, it's easier to write than to edit, but that's my personal preference. So.
So I'm wondering that if you people come back from the break and you share, okay, this is not only the transcript, but this is a suggestion how to cluster it, then it will for sure steer up a conversation. Oh, I don't agree with this cluster.
Yeah.
And then you immediately go to the real heart of the conversation of how do we understand it, what is relevant, instead of asking the group to start from zero to cluster, which
Yeah.
often takes a lot of time and doesn't really lead to the essence of the conversation.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and I wouldn't omit that step in most cases. Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We should still do that, of course. Yeah. The clustering from time to time to for them to have the process to understand. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
I was actually wondering if the opposite could be true.
Ah,
That
okay.
instead of asking the group to cluster,
Mm.
to confront the group with the imperfect clustering of an AI, for
Mhm.
them to have a conversation about whether they agree or not to that.
To be tried. I'm actually I haven't tried that, and I haven't. The last thing I said, I haven't done including clustering. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's yeah, interesting. Yeah. I would try both and compare.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Maybe the change days is an opportunity to do some
Yeah,
experiments where
yeah,
the stakes are very low
yeah, that's true.
instead
Hmm.
of a team. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're writing a book.
Hmm.
Oh.
I did. Well, it's done. So I did write a book together with AI. Yes.
What is your, if you had to, because if I'm not mistaken, the book is basically the summary of what you have learned and know about facilitation.
Yeah.
So when you summarize it, what is to you after the 30 years and going through this process, what is the essence of facilitation?
Hmm. Good question. I'm thinking along, so I have to think aloud, yeah,
Hmm.
because I'm sure that I've thought about that question in one way or the other, or maybe I haven't. And unfortunately, Jutta is not here now, Jutta Weimer, who would probably have an answer right away. Um, Let me approach it from a different angle. Let me approach it from the angle of change, because I have this change lenses on for my whole professional life, and what I learned to understand, or what I understand, sorry, what I learned, what I learned is that change is pain, is real pain, and whenever we ask people to change, or whenever organizations or hierarchies of organizations or governments or so ask people to change, although we know we really never think about so much about the emotional aspects, about what people are losing. I mean, it's not, what I'm just saying is nothing new, but I wonder whether this part, this highly emotional part, is really taken seriously in many processes. So coming back to your question, what is facilitation, is for me to accept the emotional part of any process and give it the appropriate platform, and that can be very different. This platform can be more on an intellectual, of course, rational level, or it can be on a real emotional level. But give any process that we are facilitating, and that includes a learning process in my leadership trainings. Give it the platform that people can digest what comes up in them individually, and what comes up in a group, in a team, for example, in an
Mm.
organization. So what are the deep hidden things that emerge in such a process? And I think we as facilitators are there to design or to facilitate a process, a healthy process that helps people to deal with that. Because I'm now, after having read so many books about neuroscience, I'm so much convinced that all we're doing is just emotional,
Mm.
and all the rest is a little bit rational brain from the last some 100,000 years, which was added to it, which gives a little bit of interpretation or so. But at the end, everything is emotional.
I'm
Don't
s-
don't know whether that makes sense, what I tried to say over the last 2 minutes or so. Does it make any sense to you?
to me, it makes a lot
Summarize
of
it.
sense. So for
What did I
me,
say?
so what I heard is that the facilitation is basically the holding space for people to emotionally process whatever they're tasked to do. So facilitation is when we speak of process facilitation. So
Mhm.
we are we're accompanying group to go through a process where the real work for facilitation is to create a space for them to process their emotions that are usually, and then this is my interpretation of your work, of your words, the emotions that are usually the obstacles of them getting the things done that they signed up for.
Thank you. You said it much better than I did. Thanks. I will listen to it again and make it mine.
Um, and maybe I was able to summarize your words because they resonate so deeply.
Mhm.
Um, and and I would then be curious because, as you know, I'm writing this book on professionalism,
Mhm.
which is
Told me. Yeah.
which addresses this part of why is it, and then this would be a question, maybe it's just my hypothesis, that we consider this emotional work unprofessional. Because let me start differently. My hypothesis would be that your clients would never hire you to accompany their leadership team through the emotional process.
Mhm.
They would hire you to accompany them through the change process, the strategy discussion, and all of that, um, pretending as if the emotional things don't exist. So it's something that we mostly maybe not ignore, but that we don't address openly. Why is that, if that's true?
I mean, we all know it. People know it. I mean, as I said, it's nothing new. We all know that emotions are always part of what we're doing. Um, and then there is probably still this idea in people's minds, in leaders' minds, and people who commission change processes, that if we have the right plan, I mean, the whole, I mean, probably if you followed my work of the last 30 years, you know that the word change, I've never liked the word change management, or at least I haven't liked it for 20 years, even if I use it from time to time. But I always say immediately I don't like the word change management because you cannot manage it. But it's still in people's minds, obviously, or the idea, the hope that you can manage it, yeah, and that's utter nonsense, yeah. I mean, in this complex world. By the way, I met Dave Snowden last week in
Mm.
London, and he had this wonderful T-shirt which said, obviously, simple, complicated, complex, chaotic, and then the fifth word, confused. Yeah, I love that. So, I mean, we try to avoid the uncertainty, of course, and that's normal and that's human because we don't know what happens. We don't know what happens when we open this Pandora box. And so, for that reason, first of all, because people think that processes can be managed, complex processes can be managed in a linear way, it's still in people's minds, of course. And second, the fear what's coming up. And third, I mean, business is business, and emotions are emotions. They don't belong together, are probably not so much in people's minds anymore, but maybe in some.
Mm. Did you do you notice a difference on how these air quotes soft matters, soft issues are addressed in workshops over the years?
Well, well, in my at least I can only talk about my workshops.
Yes, of course. That's
And so,
already a lot of data points if we just look at your workshops.
yeah, and that probably there was a point in my career because I mean I started blind. I mean the first workshop I facilitated, I had no idea of facilitation, and
Mm.
I can read it in my recent book. You can read it because there's the story of how this all started for me. So I had no idea of facilitation. I just knew a process, a project management planning process, and that what I applied, and I knew how to use Metaplan cards. That was really everything. I had no idea about group dynamics, even not energizers. I didn't know a single one, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. and it worked at the time. I was lucky with the crowds I had to work with that it worked in many ways. Although there were some workshops at the beginning which it didn't work. For example, when the participants don't show up, what do you do as a facilitator when the participants don't show up, and all these kind of things. Um, so there was a point in my career very clearly when I parted from that and went into this other kind of work. Certainly, maybe some time where it overlapped, but so what I wanted to say to your question, I think the topic of emotions popped up certainly 15 years ago in my work, at least, if not 20 years. And now, if I say so, I mean, I make it clear from the beginning, not by saying it, but by role modeling it. I mean, I voice my emotions and tell personal stories and talk about my marriage a little bit and all these kind of things. Talk about my traumas. I mean, I don't tell them all the traumas of my life, of course. Some secrets I need to keep, but I tell them a little bit that I have traumas in my childhood, and so make it as a role model and make it clear that that's part of it.
The normalizing.
Yeah, the
We're all
normal.
human.
Yeah.
Yeah. What made the shift for you? So when you said that they were up to a point and then something changed.
Well, of course, that was my long path. I had to learn a lot of things, and certainly, the work with Stephen Gilligan, who I call my most important teacher for the last 25 years. Um, this really made a change because he does such deep work on the human psyche and on traumas you have and on the hurts and injuries and things like that it made clear. I mean, for me, that's the work I want to go in. Although I don't do the work that Stephen is doing. I mean, he's mainly a therapist, but then again, together with Robert Dills, they did, of course, a lot on coaching, also on facilitation and stuff like that. But yeah, that influenced me a lot.
Thank you. Also for bringing up the impact of coaching and therapy, and I think that's something that I also emphasize and that I appreciate in most of the guests I have on the podcast, that we do the inner work, the
Mm-hmm.
coaching and the therapy to be aware of our small t and capital T trauma and how it impacts our work and our biases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think leaders, I mean, as I said, a lot of work I'm doing now is leadership development, and leaders need to know. I mean, they can do so much harm and they can do so much good. And it's very clear if they want to achieve something, they work with people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What is it what would be your advice to your younger self?
How young? 20,
30
30,
years ago
30 years ago.
when you
Okay.
just started?
Yeah. Just go. Just go. I mean, it's an old mantra of many people. The path will tell you. Yeah.
Mhm.
The path will tell you.
And then I guess embracing the potential failures, or not seeing them as failures but learnings. Falling down is part of the path.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's part of the path, of course, yes.
Mm.
Mm.
One last question, um, if any. Oh, there's always some. What remains your facilitation challenge?
My main challenge as a
Hmm.
facilitator, well,
Or
people
what?
tell me again and again and again and again, and like, well, I'm too old to change that. Sometimes, or not sometimes, regularly in workshops, and maybe even probably in that interviews. I will see it later on. I'm getting in a very serious mode. My face is very serious. I'm really sometimes then in my words I get a little bit too authoritative. Yeah, because I'm thinking and I focus on myself and I try to get out the right words and I want people to understand what I'm trying to tell them so that I'm losing a little bit the lightness, which I would wish I want to have. So yeah, lightness. And I can be light. I can be very light, but it's not always there. And that's I would take it to my grave. It's like that.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for this openness and self-reflection.
And other colleagues. Fortunately, I often work together with facilitators, with colleagues who complement me in that. Then
Yeah, and we cannot have it all. It's a yin and the yang.
no, no, no.
If some beginner facilitator listens to this show, what would be your advice to them?
Mm. Well, I think to learn the craft, you should go through any kind of, let's say, psycho shit, yeah, psychological thing, particularly if you're not a psychologist, which at least half of our colleagues are not, the other half are, so they can skip that step. They probably need to learn more the processes and the business part, but the rest of us, I mean, do something, do I don't know, whatever schools are there, process work or NLP. I started with NLP, but I did all other stuff, process work, Gestalt or whatever. I don't think it matters very much what kind of work, but do this kind of 1, 2, 3 years or even longer training where you reflect on yourself, where you learn to this all this human condition things. So I think that's more important than the tools and techniques of facilitation.
Mm. Thank you.
And you learn about yourself, obviously, then along the way. That's the good side effect.
Yeah.
Sometimes hard, but good.
Mm.
Painful.
Very. If you suddenly see.
Yes, yes. Another story, and you can leave it in or cut it out. I was at this philosophy festival in London last weekend, and there was all kinds of crazy inputs, Big Bang and AI and love and right wing and left wing and so on. And there was something which actually is the other big thing, a discussion about transhumanism. Yeah,
Mm.
whether we still will be humans in 50, 100 years. I mean, if you read the book of Yuval Noah Harari, there is the sign at the board that there will be kind of non-human or human mixture, whatever, medical chips inside and brain and so on. And the one guy from California who was really an evangelist of transhumanism said, yeah, maybe we don't need to sleep anymore in the future. And I thought, no, I do want to sleep. I do want to keep my sleep. And but I'm saying that for another reason, because there was also this idea maybe we don't have pain anymore and so on. I mean, psychological as well as physical pain. And somebody else in that discussion around said, no, pain is an essential part of our life. Yeah. It's very important.
It's information because it's otherwise we don't learn
Yeah. Yeah.
if there's no pain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's and otherwise it gets boring. As silly as it sounds,
Mm.
um, but we do need the challenge here and there and the painful truth.
Mm.
Mm. Thank you so much for your time, Holger.
Thank you for having me. I learned a lot, and I'm curious to listen again to that interview. I have no idea what I said, but I hope some things made sense.
Absolutely. I'm I'm leaving with lots of food for thought and
Me too.
inspiration.
Thank you. Keep on doing the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.